everyone awake still? I think there's some coffee outside here if anyone needs anything. I haven't had lunch yet, so apologize if I'm half unhinged, but I think we've got some amazing folks with us today.
We should just do unfiltered, like off the script. Like it's all just like good friends for so many years, for like multiple cycles, bro.
We'll change the topic to Dovey's shilling matcha caffeine release to us, right? Only if Dorothy sits in the middle. But I think we've got a lot of things to cover today and a lot of great insights from three wonderful folks that I think have been unique parts of my own journey in DeFi as well. So it's always easy to have a conversation with you guys when I've already gotten to see the trials and tribulations, I think, of all of us, right? And I think we'll cover some of those topics today, given that I think right now, I'll be honest, I think a lot of people are kind of questioning where is the market going to go. I think there's three builders sitting next to me that think about things in very unique ways, and I think it's important to let the builder's voice be heard. So I think without further ado, I think I want to let all three of you guys do a quick self-intro, maybe starting from Dovey.
Hey guys, so my name's Defi Panel. Have been in this space for quite a while, and my fourth cycle, I'm a boomer, like boomer in terms of like mental aging. So like I run Primitive Ventures, and we are not a VC, but write VC checks. We don't have any outside capital, and it's all self-funded like throughout the years. And thank you Satoshi for giving us like fuck you money, and then later on Zcash, like ETH IEO, and so I feel super lucky in this space. And also like Kelvin, like when like Kelvin was when Kelvin was still in Binance, and then got to know Kelvin, and then like Tian, like it's just all these multi-cycle friends are still sticking around. That's what keeping me here still. So we have a lot of good portfolio, like Outlier, like I will talk about Pendle, like why we miss Pendle. So like our mandate is like pretty simple. So we just want to do things that like completely just like asset agnostic, and then can found like a better future for both the IQ 50 and like IQ 150. And then so I think like crypto like deeply rooted in like the ethos of like this financial populism, like as well as like like techno libertarianism. And then so like those are the things that we are gravitate us like towards to, and we basically have our internal motor as like just like long substance and short status, and then just like long freedom and short coercion.
Hey everyone, I'm Sam. I'm the founder of Frax. Frax is, in one sentence, a decentralized central bank that issues a decentralized USD stablecoin and a few other assets. And we recently launched Fraxtal, our modular rollup. That's a DeFi first general purpose high performance chain. I actually want to give Calvin's intro myself, because back when I was designing Frax long time ago, I think it was 2019, late 2019, I actually talked to CZ about it, and Frax is a very unique, different type of decentralized stablecoin. And I remember CZ saying, I don't understand this, but there's one person at Binance that I trust for everything. And he is, if he thinks this is good, I believe everything he says. And CZ made a group with Calvin. And that was my first introduction to Calvin.
Back then, fun fact, it was called a decentral bank. So
Yes.
It's still in the one sentence pitch now.
That's a very McCurving name.
Mike is here, so just in time for a perfect intro. Mike?
Hello. My
Welcome.
name is Mike. I'm the founder and CEO of Ether.fi, and our goal is to make DeFi easy for normal people, and so we've got a suite of products that help people save, invest, and spend their crypto in real life.
Is this the physical version of front running, like just getting in just-in-time liquidity? Awesome, Tian.
It's more like back running, I think, right?
Yeah, I'm Tian, CEO, co-founder of Pendle. So we're protocol for the tokenization and the trading of yield. And among the use cases that we support, firstly, is for yield speculation. And then the other one, to appeal to a different type of users, there are some users in crypto who want fixed rates, and Pendle is enabling that use case as well.
And Tien is also from a Binance era friendship because can I say it publicly? Actually, Tien actually applied to join my team at research, and sadly, my bosses didn't take him. Otherwise, imagine how many early DeFi projects we could have listed back then in the early days. So a lot of firepower and lots of IQ. I think there's probably 600 IQ on this.
Most of it is Calvin's.
No. Sorry, 750. Clearly, it's not me because I did the math wrong. But yeah, I think we've got a lot of things to touch on. I think the first one is one that's near and dear to my heart. And I think as a lot of them have alluded to, one of the things I think when I think about in bad market times, I always think back to some of the stuff that we did at Binance when we weren't number one and the market conditions weren't good. My first 6 months at Binance, BNB fell 60% and my salary was all BNB. So I had to like call home and tell my mom like, hey, I'm making $3 an hour. Just don't worry about me, please, right? So I think in terms of kind of finding some sort of resilience in the market, I always think a lot about I call them the ramen days at Binance when we literally had the hot water dispenser as the place for us to make the soup for the ramen. That we think back to like, what did we do at that time? And one thing that we specifically thought a lot about was coverage. At that time, or I guess maybe when I did my university thesis, I actually wrote on exchanges and listing strategies. And at that time, Binance had listed maybe 100 some tokens. Coinbase had only listed 3. It was just Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum at that era. They didn't even have BCH back then, right? So it was just 3. And I think in thinking about like how to do your job, I think to the best of your capabilities, one of the things I've thought a lot about is coverage. For the 3 of you guys in terms of the DeFi, the new chains, the new TVLs that you need to bring. I think this one topic I even had a group chat with Tian last week on about chain expansion. I think it's very difficult also to make sure that you're prioritizing the right focuses on the right assets or the right ecosystems, because everyone wants to find you guys as the billion-dollar protocols in the room, right? And then for Dovey, I think it's the same thing, right? You're always need to keep a pulse on all of the markets, all of the regions, all of the kind of narratives, right? To bring together the 50 and the 150 IQ guys together. How do you guys currently kind of manage or think about this type of coverage in different ways of your own businesses? You can go in any order.
I mean, I guess for us, maybe what coverage looks like is a couple of different things. One is, of course, DeFi integrations. And our philosophy, pretty much from the day we launched, much to the unhappiness of my team, was we say yes to everything. Literally, we said yes to every single integration. And that was painful because it meant like our backlog of integrations, and in our case, points tracking at that time and all this other stuff, just grew to hundreds. Literally, we had a backlog of hundreds of integrations that we hadn't done, but we had committed to. And so what that led us to do is to get really creative in terms of, without going into all the weeds, but just listing it, but saying it's coming soon, automating it, offloading some of the work to the team, and just until it really became a factory and we could do 20 a week, and eventually by the time TG happened, we were able to catch up and get all those integrations. I think that's actually among other things, that's one of the reasons we ended up being successful and doing well. Is we really said, okay, we got to be everywhere, every L2, every project, and so there's just that weight that came with it.
So hopefully we get you guys on Frax still later next month, and so. It's really well said, because one of the main things and ethos of Frax is positive sum integrations. And the main thing that I always try to make clear, if there's anything anyone takes away from this in terms of Frax from this panel, is that finance is not a negative sum game as much as people like to talk about casinos or things like that. And it's not like thermodynamics and physics where energy can't be created or destroyed, right? You can create wealth, you can create a larger pie rather than take other people's piece of the pie. So Frax issues a few assets. One of them is an LSD, Frax Ether, and one of them is a USD peg stablecoin. And so a lot of people think, oh, well, are you guys, or like, are you against Ether.fi, or like, are you competitive against DAI? Do you guys have a bad relationship or anything? And one of the main things that I've always tried to instill in terms of Frax culture is that we don't see anyone as a competitor, because in order for you to actually be a competitor, you have to have both sides wanting to be zero sum and taking the market from one another rather than increasing the size of the market. And the important thing with finance is you really can actually create real value and real wealth. And as Dovey said, thanks to Satoshi for making everyone wealthy. And it's not that he figured out how to take a bunch of people's money from somewhere and give it to people. It's that he created something that is literally worth trillions in market cap because of the technology, the non-custodial nature of the blockchain. So the main thing I like to say to everyone, whether they want to build on Fraxtal, they want to build with Pendle, Ether.fi, anyone, is that don't think of things in DeFi as zero sum or competitive. Sure, later maybe there's like a investor people might want to compete for and get, and they might not get them or something like that. But the overall arching view is that if you can create value, you can create value literally by working with other people rather than against them. So that's basically how I've always thought of integrations and working with other teams and getting other people to build with Frax and integrating Frax with other team members, bringing liquidity to other protocols and everything in between.
Yeah, so Pendle is a second order derivative. Typically, we will, how we think about expanding to L1s and L2s really depends on the liquidity of the other ecosystem. So I guess like beyond just liquidity, before liquidity, there's got to be like a set of assets and primitives that are already available, and then the liquidity have to be sufficiently deep in order for Pendle to make sense. So we don't benefit from first mover. We always prefer to be second mover. So really just observing how the ecosystem performs, see how the liquidity builds up, and then if it makes sense for us, then we do a deployment there.
Yeah. So I just want to add like more aspect from like being an investors and seeing like different profile of founders. I think that the mediocre founders, and they're all, well, the mediocre builders, and then so because not like founder is a completely different animal. The mediocre builders, and they're like playing just a ranking game. Like ranking game is like an ordinal game. It's a really bad game, right? So it's kind of like zero sum PvP. I think that the best builders are playing a like cardinal game. So that the cardinal game is like an original game, right? So like that's why I've been seeing a lot of like case like over and over, just like as Sam alluded to that. If you try to subscribe to the others, and so if you are focused on the winner, only the losers focus on the winner, and winners focus on winning, right? So this also back to my Pendle story that like what I realized over the cycle is, and then so it's not about what. It's about who do what, right? And so when we first look at Pendle, and it's fixed income, right? So like fixed income, like there's no demand. So like that's why we passed it, super bearish. I think our thesis was right, but the thing is that back in the day, like if we can take a deeper look on like the original story of like why Tian like founded Pendle, and then I think we might have like different like opinion, and then like that's also the reason why we invested in a lot of these like serial founders in the space like YQ, and then so I invest in YQ back in like 2017, Zilliqa, and then so like YQ exactly know that why Zilliqa failed, and then why sharding not gonna work, and then so he basically knows like, so like he basically failed before, right? So like that's why I think like all the best founders, they never play this ranking game with the others. And I literally just tweet this like right before the stage, because there's all this flipping thing like all over like Twitter again, right? Just Sol flip ETH, and then ETH flip that, and this and that. So I think these are all very boring, just like dick measuring contexts. So like we should focus on focus on your own lane. Like the best founder always focus on their own lane, and like the best founders are always just focus on how to cultivate their own unique community. And like the best application cannot be like the best application is never coming from VC. Like the best narrative is never coming from VC. So I really don't believe that like there will be like a VC driven narrative. Like that's never the case. Like it has to be the founder behind it, like to push the envelope forward. Yeah.
Love it. I think that was actually my second question. So I think I can retire and Dovey can be the moderator now. But I think as the three founders here, I'd love to add on to this question of what makes you guys the most proud of some of the things that you've assembled inside your team. Because I think Dovey and I have talked a little about what makes this founder grit and the conviction types of points around building a team that survives these bear market and the multi-cycle friends point, right? But I'd love to give you guys a chance to highlight maybe some of the kind of maybe underappreciated teammates on the team and some of the things that they do that help make your three protocols be as big as it is today.
Yeah, I'll go first. So we're actually a pretty small team. We're 13 people in total, and actually a few of them are right in the back. Andy is MVP, Roberto, Teddy in the back do all the work, and I get credit for it. I get to come up here and actually brag about it. But everyone on the team has multiple roles, and almost everyone is highly technical. Either they write code or they understand mechanism design and DeFi. And so a lot of people ask, how does Frax issue multiple assets, and how is there a blockchain itself and there's only 13 people on the team? A lot of the times I actually realize most people on the team double as two people, because they understand code or they understand mechanism design, BD, as well as how crypto as an industry works. And then we all have a very long-term oriented mindset. We see things in 5 years, 10 years instead of one cycle. And I think a lot of people probably in the audience knows that there's a lot of projects in the industry that are kind of one cycle in terms of like they immediately give up right through the tough times. And they think that because the market is bad, that has some bearing on what they are building, and sometimes that's not even the case. And it's if everyone's seen that meme where there's like this guy digging for diamonds, and then he's like super close to it, and then he turns around with like this tiny amount of dirt left. It's literally like that in terms of you have to power through the tough times and actually have conviction in the long term of the industry and what you're building. And so that's why, like, for example, I've been in the industry since 2013. I actually, when college, I started mining Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and everything, and I went down the rabbit hole. And ever since then, I've really just enjoyed what crypto is and what it stands for. And so I couldn't see myself doing anything any differently. And so when we bring people on the team, we try to look for that culture, and everyone on the team, the extended team, and the developers, the BD, everyone has the same exact long-term ethos.
Yeah, I mean, I think the team, after the market, the team is the most important thing that drives the success of a company. We have some remarkable team members that very fortunate to be working with. One thing that, as I guess advice or guidance I could give other builders is most companies, especially startups, but also large companies, are really random and ineffective when it comes to hiring. Their hiring process is just whatever whatever happens to be salient to them as far as hiring methodology. But there's actually been a lot of research done. Like lots of people have done PhDs on how to hire effectively, and none of that research is put to work by most companies. So I would say one of the most effective things I've done both at Ether.fi, my previous company, is to just be super methodical about it. There's basically three things that you want to measure, which is you want to measure IQ, you want to measure skill, and then you want to measure track record. And your interview process and assessment has to really methodically touch on those points and make sure that all of them are kind of above a threshold. So my advice is just to get super scientific, actually look at what works and implement it.
And how big is the Ether.fi team now?
So we're about 22 people now.
Tian?
I mean, team is definitely. I think I'm very lucky to be working alongside my co-founders. We've had history of working together since maybe 2017, the Kyber days. So we've been through bull bear cycle together, and then when the 2022-2023 period happened, it wasn't so much of a surprise for us because we've already experienced the the ups and downs beforehand, right? And I mean, collectively, we were able to focus our efforts in motivating the team. And I think looking back, it wasn't it wasn't the best market, right? In 2 years, like 2022 and 2023, but because we've had the experience collectively to and we've been through that cycle, I think we were able to focus our efforts in motivating the team to focus on the right efforts and stay positive and not be too affected by what happened in the market.
Transitioning
Can I
a bit
actually
to
add
the DeFi.
one last thing?
Go for it.
So I want to actually define what I mean when I say long-term oriented team members. So one of the main things that Frax does is we have a lot of different assets, but there's only one Frax share. It's the FXS token that actually is the staking token that gives security to everything. And the reason that we have this singular token is I actually call this the Vitalik ethos, which is you want to have everyone long-term aligned on one goal, one distribution of asset, and everyone in a common vision. And the reason I call it the Vitalik ethos is because Vitalik could, if you think about it, he's devoted his entire life to ETH, and that's why ETH is the number 2 most valuable asset after Bitcoin. And he could have launched a second token and say, hey guys, this is roll up and ticker roll and like I'm raising 10 billion. This is how Ethereum is scaled. It's like for blobs and this is how you buy DA and have billions of dollars raised and secondaries because of Vitalik, right? But he doesn't. And he has this very long-term oriented vision that other people believe in. There's only one token, and everyone is aligned on what it means and what that distribution of this token represents in the long term. And that's basically the guiding light in terms of the Vitalik ethos that we do at Frax. Like we could tokenize Frax Ether, we could tokenize Frax USD peg stablecoin, and then the roll up and all this stuff. And the reason we have this singular long-term oriented vision is because that is the most likely way that everyone can make the longest term impact. And at the end of the day, that's actually what we're all here to do, right? At least at the Frax team.
Love it. So I'm going to tick up one spice level on everything because I think everyone here likes airdrops. And I think that you three have seen completely different kind of experiences on the airdrop side of things. And I think Dovey, you've helped a lot of your portcos design a lot on these airdrops. Since Mike, I think you're the one that's been most recently listed amongst all of us. I think you've got a different kind of card of having to deal with now post airdrop, how to keep and how to incentivize all the users to come. And I think both Sam and Tien have seen the hard grind of having to recoup users to get back into the visions of what they've built because the token was already launched and that maybe some of their competitors actually had the new incentives to incentivize. I'd love for Mike to maybe share some learnings currently after the last few months of trying to keep on growing as much new TVL as possible. And then on the flip side, hearing a little bit of the resilience and thoughts that Sam and Tien want to share. Mike?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, in our case, we've been actually very careful about what we incentivize, and we've been very careful not to get stuck into the emissions death spiral that a lot of projects go into. I mean, there's so many different strategies associated with trying to not get there, but one of the things that we always try to keep in mind is that you want to make sure that your users are using your product for the benefit that the product has, not because you're throwing a bunch of tokens at them. And so what that means in our case is focusing on vertical integration. So in other words, creating a suite of products that work seamlessly together, so cash, liquid, and stake, such that the users get enough utility that we don't need to throw a whole bunch of tokens at them. So with our token airdrop seasons, what we've done is slowly reduce it to where now we basically completely shut off token emissions, and the machine keeps running and growth keeps going. So I mean, I think the important thing is to make sure you have that end state in mind of what actual utility looks like, and you're driving towards that rather than trying to focus on vanity metrics by just throwing tokens at people.
No, not much to add. I think ultimately it boils down to the product, and you have to be able to provide real utility and try to make it as sustainable as possible.
So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Tian, but I think FXS, Frax Share Token, might be the oldest token on this panel, followed by Pendle, and then Ether.fi. And FXS is listed and traded everywhere on Binance, on exchanges and everything. And as you said, Calvin, like in crypto, speculative premium is really big, right? So there's this idea of, oh, should we just launch a new token? Should they do this at this new cycle and things like that? And we totally issue and don't think about things like that. In fact, one of the things we're working on that's still in stealth is this full tokenomic revamp of FXS. And as Mike said, it doesn't mean we're doing huge emissions or inflation to a bunch of different things. It's a full rethinking of what the actual value of the FXS token is entirely. And what I like to actually describe, because usually on DeFi panels, it's all about, because of finance, it's all about P&E or revenues and things like that. I actually like to think about things from a first principle perspective. And if you look at Bitcoin, which we were talking about at the beginning, the entire Bitcoin network has $0 of revenue, right? The BTC holders get zero revenue. There's no burn. There's no EIP 1559.
Yeah, and I want to add on to that, because even in early days, and Bitcoin miners, and they're not mining for profits. They're basically altruistic miners, and then so which is unknown to many out there. And then so yeah, even miners back in the day, they are not looking for unit economic.
Yeah, and exactly. And so the main thing that we're focusing on for this complete FXS tokenomics revamp is not how to maximize revenue or P&E or token burns. It's to capture, exactly as Dovey said, what makes, for example, BTC, which is the best example, so special in terms of it has trillions of dollars of market cap, right? And there's no revenue. No BTC holders get dividends. There's no BTC people that get burns on tokens.
There's
and
no
things.
3,3 in Bitcoin.
Yeah, but it works, right? It's the biggest example, and so people have an easy time believing it for BTC. But then when people think about it in any other token, right? They're like, oh, this is just a BS way to hide the bad P&E and revenue. However, the thing that we're doing with revamping the FXS tokenomics is to come up with a way that's never been produced and introduced before, of an alternative way to actually quantify this value of, for example, how does BTC have $1 trillion, $2 trillion in market cap? And as an older token, right, instead of launching new tokens, doing massive inflation of different places and different incentives that then run out, right, you have to have things done in a first principle, long-term oriented perspective. And so we're excited to announce it in the next month and a half. But the idea here is long-term innovation and play long-term games with long-term people.
So I just want to give two actual examples, and then also one related to Pendle as well. We work mostly with early stage company, right? So say for instance, I always advise my founders saying that you have to look for your first 100 users. Actually for DeFi, 100 users are enough, right? So we know how many daily active user or MAU for Curve, even for GMX, even for GMX back in the day, it's just less than 100 users, but generate billions of volumes, right? And then so for Pendle, and I remember we did a retroactive analysis on Pendle. What we realized is that even though there's more users for so even though there's more users coming for the fixed income, but those users who are speculated, so those users who are trading the future yield, they're much more active, right? So how you can find your first 100 users, and how to find your first patient zero. So this is always the question I've been just grilling my founders, that can you find that, right? Just don't build something. It's something for everything is nothing for so it's like something for everything is like nothing for anything. So like that's always what I have been telling them. So like when it comes to airdrop, like I think like airdrop. So the thing for airdrop is we need to have a proper like user profile, just like segmentation, and then also like targeting. So like that's how you can make your like airdrop like effective. So when it comes to macro, so like there's like a concept that if I am a nation state, so I can issue one debt and then generate like X like GDP, right? So like China, so for like mainland China, so this number 20 years ago is like 1 to 4. So if I issue one debt from like the treasury, so from just like the PBOC, right? So I can generate like 4 GDP, and now the number like down to 1 to 1. Right. So I think like the most ideal airdrop is that if you can airdrop like one virtual like magic internet money, and then so how much of the monetary velocity that you can generate for your own protocol. So like that is like one dimension. And then so if we go deeper, it's about user retention, right? So like probably for like Pendle is like, so they might realize that, so if I incentivize my you traders better, and then so they actually retain better, so they will have like higher ARPU, right? So then, so if like that's the case, then you have to segment your user carefully, and then just like try to incentivize like those like, who can retain better. Yeah.
Yeah. So to summarize, I think the airdrops need to be calculated and pointed to pour fuel on the fire on the core businesses and the fundamentals that you guys have. I know we're a little over time. I hope Dorothy doesn't kill me. So I think I do want to sneak in one more quick one-word predictions from the next four folks next to me. One sentence? Oh, we got one sentence. Okay. Shall we start with Dovey first? One sentence prediction for 2025?
Oh, 2025? I'll
give you guys one more time. My thesis is that Telegram will rule everything. I didn't say necessary Ton, but Telegram. So that's my 2025.
Okay, so my prediction is that the 4-year cycle gonna be broken.
That broken in a good or a bad way? Both. It's no longer a super cycle, it's the Dovey cycle.
No, so like the broken in the sense is like there's no retrofitting, right? So because everything in our space is retrofitting, overfitting on like past data points or just like the graph, and I think like that would be broken.
My prediction is the super cycle with low rates, and I think the best performing assets will be those that completely are totally new, innovative tokenomics that don't have anything to do with P&E and revenue analysis, just like Bitcoin doesn't have anything to do with those. So those are the tokens that I'm interested in.
Coins already?
Well, that's a good data point, right? And so how is there so much meme coin value? It is, whether you like it or not, a new, different way to value tokens. Maybe you're not bullish this specific way, and that's fair, right? I think the most important and highest best investments in 2025 super cycle will be innovative new ways. Maybe meme coins are one of them, but
Dovey, what's the name of any pets or animals that you have?
And I have 2 cats.
I think consumer apps will finally find their product market fit in crypto.
Yeah, I think BTC-Fi will have its time, 2025.
So we're bullish on BTC-Fi, consumer, new tokenomics, and Dovey's 2 cats.
Thank you, Calvin. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.